Good evening. The White House said yesterday that it is rescinding the finding that greenhouse gases endanger human health. Now, I think, we're gonna end up going back to a time when we're preferring the time when we were simply worried about him withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accords. So the EPA has announced that it is rescinding the quote endangerment finding, the finding that greenhouse gases are in any way whatsoever a hazard to humans. With the EPA rescinding that makes it impossible to make any regulations on greenhouse gases whatsoever. This would, in essence, remove all of the CO2 emission guidelines for power plants, cars, any kind of vehicle, anything whatsoever. There would be no more regulation of greenhouse gases in the United States, period, end of discussion. The process for this repeal has started. It has been declared that essentially the can you rescind scientific findings? Yeah. Which is why this this distinction is important. The government's conclusion that science has accurately determined that greenhouse gases are in fact a danger and a significant danger to us. The White House is simply rescinding the executive branch's agreement with that assessment. The EPA announced, and I think they did this yesterday. One of the reasons we're doing this now is because yesterday ended up being a much busier day than anybody anticipated, and so the quake buried this. But this is staggering news, and one of the things I enjoy most in time: A, doing breaking news, and B, news that's huge that nobody's covering. This is staggering. I mean, they are literally saying that the science is wrong, and they don't have any scientists to back them up. And I've had this discussion with many climate science deniers, and they all refer to the same people who they misquote, they take out of context, or aren't qualified. The reality is it's phenomenally dangerous, and it's going to cause a lot of suffering. The EPA has on their website right now, they are bragging about the change, and they say, if finalized, this proposal would undo the underpinning for $1 trillion in costly regulations, saving more than $54 billion annually. Those numbers are roughly accurate. My concern is, why is the EPA bragging about how much money they're saving people? It is not the EPA's job to save people money or to improve business or to make business easier for anyone. That's not their job. If they can do that, fine. And they should certainly remove outdated restrictions that people don't need anymore. But we're not talking about, something like that. This is tantamount to saying, well, do you know how much money we're going to save and how much nicer and more beautiful things will be if we remove all of the restrictions on lead paint? Do you know how much that would save on gasoline as well? Gasoline is more expensive because in order to stop the knocking of the pistons in the engine, we have to use complex additives instead of just using lead. So let's make the businesses more money by saying lead doesn't harm people. Their job isn't to make money. Why isn't the Commerce Commission, why aren't they coming out and saying we believe that this should be rescinded, and then let the EPA make a decision based on science? From what I can tell, this isn't based on science. This isn't based on it's based on saving money, and they're bragging about it. Why is how much money the EPA is going to be saving by making the environment worse on the EPA's website? It's really quite staggering to see. Now, this the repeal process is fortunately a process. Unfortunately, to the best of my ability to discern, there isn't a heck of a lot that can be done to stop it. There is a period where they are required to hear from the public. I don't think they care what the public thinks or says at this point in regards to the EPA. In regards to greenhouse gases. They certainly don't care what the scientific consensus and the consensus across the planet is. So, some Americans may say, hey, yeah, but anyways, after that, there is a time where there will be probably legal challenges to this. Those legal challenges will end up in the U.S. Supreme Court. Does anyone have any idea what my estimation is on how well it's going to do there? One of the things they've argued, and we've talked about this and why Chevron deference was such a huge problem, they're arguing that the reason they have to rescind this is because Chevron deference does not give them the right to regulate these things. That may or may not be the case. You still can't sit there and say it's not a harmful gas. If you can't regulate it or don't want to regulate it, that's a completely different argument. What they're saying is it's not a harmful gas. That means nobody can regulate it. They are literally pulling the teeth of any governmental organization, even at the state level, because if a state organization says we're going to have carbon emission standards on the tailpipe of your car, that will not survive a legal challenge, because the challenge will be on what grounds are you doing it. And if California says because it's dangerous, well, the official position of the U.S. government is it's not. This will completely kill any ability to regulate greenhouse gases anywhere in the United States by any organization whatsoever, including the states. It's staggering. And the fact that it isn't front page news everywhere, again, we would have covered it yesterday. We learned about it yesterday, but as we were, it was on our list of things to talk about literally as we were getting ready. 8.7, 8.8 quake, and that took over. So we're not going to do a regular rundown. We're not going to do a rundown of all the news that's been going on. You guys already know and or were watching yesterday, but this was a story that is, in my view, so important. We had to do a show to cover it. And since it really couldn't be covered yesterday with what was going on, and maybe that's why, I'm sorry, I've got the EPA website right here, and they're bragging about how much money they're saving. That's not the EPA's job. The job is to protect the environment. This is the single largest deregulatory move in U.S. history. The findings that greenhouse gases do endanger human health has survived a number of legal challenges. The last... since 2009. We've known since before then, but that was when it was declared a danger to human health. So again, if it's not a danger to human health, this, according to Reuters, removes the legal foundation for all U.S. greenhouse gas regulations. The repeal would end the current limits on gas pollution from vehicle tailpipes, power plants, smokestacks, and other sources, and will hamper U.S. efforts to combat global warming in the future. Again, any attempt at so, for example, Obama. One of the things Obama had done was used this argument for electrical vehicle mandates. He said because greenhouse gases are emitted by the cars we're currently using, let's have electric EV mandates and EV targets in order to try to cut that back. That can't be done in the future with the repeal of this finding. Environmental groups blasted the move, saying it spells the end of the road for U.S. action against climate change, even as the impacts of global warming become more severe. Yes, it does, exactly. I was writing this thumbnail, I was just like, U.S. ends climate action. It actually may have been slightly hyperbolic because it isn't over yet. We've declared we're ending it. The likelihood it's going to go through the process, but we've declared that greenhouse gases are not a problem. So the U.S. will not make any efforts. There's no point in being in the Paris Accords or anything like that, in as much as if you're the president Why would you enter the Paris Accords? It's about limiting greenhouse gases. They're not a problem. This is such a fundamental shift. Again, I wish we were just leaving the Paris Accords. I remember when that happened saying, oh my God, that's a horrible thing. And now it's like, wait, what? All right, so let's see. The Supreme Court had previously argued that the EPA does have authority under the Clean Air Act to regulate greenhouse gas emissions explicitly because they are dangerous, based on scientific emissions on whether or not, scientific findings on whether or not those emissions endanger public health. So this is going to upend a whole bunch of previous established clean air regulations. My guess is a number of those regulations, I mean, it's not my guess actually, I know that a number of those regulations included other things other than just greenhouse gases, but yeah, Project 2025, exactly. It's stunning. So there's no re-entering the Paris Accords after, there's no, it's insane. California Air Resource Board Chair Lane Rudolph said that the EPA move chooses a polluter fantasy land over proven science. Meanwhile, here back on Earth, the planet continues to suffer the consequences of unchecked pollution. So for those of you just joining us, the EPA announced yesterday that they are declaring that greenhouse gases are not a hazard to human health. That declaration, if finalized, and there is a process to finalizing it, there's a review process, and there will likely be a few legal challenges. The problem is those will end up in the Supreme Court very quickly. Nonetheless, if that finding is overturned, then greenhouse gases will, according to the U.S. government, not pose any danger to human beings whatsoever, meaning they cannot be regulated. You have freedoms until they are taken from you. If greenhouse gases are safe, states can't regulate against them. You have the right to emit as much as you like. So it's staggering. The EPA is boasting, and the head of the EPA was at a car company yesterday giving a speech about this, boasting about how much money he's saving everybody. Again, he's not DOGE. It's not his job to save. There are organizations whose job it is to save money, DOGE being one of them, and maybe we need more, but he should be sitting there saving the environment. That's his job. Wow. I'm a mixture of anger and it's so simple what they're doing. They're just declaring that it's not. But it's like saying lead is not harmful. It simply isn't true, and nobody cares that's in power, that I can tell, and the people that put those in power don't seem to care either. And the people at Fox News who know that global warming is happening. I mean, it reminded me of when COVID was out and they were doing all of these COVID conspiracy theories and saying it's not real, it's not real, it's not real. But everybody at Fox had a COVID shot. Everybody at Fox was getting the vaccine. And then they would go on television and say, it's not real, you shouldn't get it. They would tell people not to get vaccinated without mentioning you couldn't get into the business without getting the vaccine, and everybody there had gotten it, and nobody was being monitored by it's hypocrisy. Hypocrisy's bad enough. Hypocrisy at the cost of human life. Oh boy. Yeah, we have a couple other things we're looking on. Join us on the Discord, and we will follow up on this as it goes. Obviously, this is an absolutely huge story. We've got the link to the Reuters article on it. My hope and suspicion is we're going to hear more, especially from other countries, on it. It's huge. It just happened to land during the quake story, which affected basically every country on some level, and everybody talked about. So it snuck in under the radar. So that's why we're here. Please do remember to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below, especially an angry one. That's love to hear your thoughts on it. And we will be sending you to I've already forgotten his name. Kin Not Kind, or Kind Not Kin. Yeah, Kin Not Kind. I think we're sending you to him after the show. So stick around for the raid, and thank you all for joining us. Our next scheduled show, Kid Not Kin. Thank you, Titan. Yeah, we did this rather quickly. So next scheduled show is tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern, downtime with Commander Macmillan and myself, barring any breaking news, of course, which we'll see. We're working on a couple, actually, but we do nothing yet. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. Hope to see you on our Discord, and thank you so much for joining us. Have a good evening, all.